Hi there, it's Oliver from Spitfire Audio, and I'm here with Robin Ashwell, a fantastic viola player from the Sacconi Quartet. Hey Robin, how are you doing?
Hi, not bad. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
I play viola in the Sacconi Quartets and do teach and play sessions as well, including for English session orchestra. And I've been doing that since I left college, which is 15 years ago now.
Oh wow. And when did you start playing music, and how old were you when you first got interested?
Well, I was always into music, really. Both my parents played music in a folky way, not professionals. So I guess I was always listening to music. And I started violin when I was 6 and piano when I was 4 or 5, actually. And then as time went on, someone introduced me to the viola.
Okay.
And gradually I morphed into a viola player by the time I was finishing school. And then I went to the Royal College of Music.
Right. And there you studied viola?
There I did viola, and there I got together with the other members of the Sacconi Quartet.
Okay, so you guys met in college?
Exactly.
Together.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did this interest shift from the violin to the viola? Because usually you would maybe continue playing the viola, or you also said you were playing the piano, and did you continue playing the piano, or?
I carried on with piano a bit, but not much time to do more than focus on more than one instrument. Yeah, the viola just gradually felt more comfortable with the viola under my chin, but there's a lot of differences, obviously, which we're going to talk about. But I think there's differences in personality of viola players to violinists as well, and maybe I suit a viola more. But in general, the sound and the feel of it seemed to suit.
Okay, seemed to suit your personality and what you were kind of looking for.
Yeah, it just seemed happiest with a viola there.
How is the viola built? Like, introduce us to the instrument.
Sure. Okay. So in basic terms, the viola sits somewhere in the middle of the violin, the high, smaller violin, and the large bass of the cello. Viola is a really interesting instrument because if it were the exact right proportions for the pitch that we play, it would be too big to play under the chin, but it would be too small and fiddly to play between the legs like a cello. So while the violin and the cello are pretty much acoustically perfect with the size and the proportions of the instrument, the viola has to be a kind of compromise instrument where we look for different ways of maximising the airspace inside the instrument. And in huge generalisation terms, the bigger the viola, the more sound you get, but you do get some fantastic sounding smaller violas and some quieter large. So it's more down to the skill of the maker.
So they're not all the same size, the violas?
No, exactly. So they vary in size. So this is this is a larger one. This is 44 centimeters long. You take the back length of the body. Actually, I only know it in inches mainly, but sort of most violas range from 15.5 to 16.5 inches. This is 16.75, and some people play bigger.
Yeah. And like geographically, where does the viola kind of come from?
Sure. Well, as far as I understand, all the violin family originated from Italy, and actually the earliest violin that we have in the world is from about 1550. It's by Andrea Amati, and interestingly, around that time, violas came in lots of different, well, I suppose like today, lots of different shapes and sizes, but because the music then that was being written would often have a treble part for violins and a bass part for cellos, and you might have 2 or 3 middle lines for different sized violas. So you'd have more alto violas, you'd have big tenor violas, and they'd be bigger than this, and then with a little stubby neck, just to sort of chug, really.
Right.
So that's and then obviously as the centuries went on, the music for viola became more and more complex until we get to the 20th century or late 19th century, I suppose, where virtuoso viola players started to come. The first and most famous being the English violist Lionel Curtis.
Okay.
who actually arranged that piece that I
Well,
just
yeah.
opened
I
with.
was going to ask, what was this piece called?
Well, that's by John Ireland. It's called The Holy Boy, and it was arranged by him and by other musicians for
Okay.
almost all instruments and ensembles. But Lionel Tertis made a viola.
And how old is the piece?
About 100 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And is there many kind of solo viola pieces, or
There's loads now.
There's loads.
Almost all from 20th century.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How does it make the sound if you take us through the instruments? How does it resonate? How you create this wonderful sound?
Yeah. Well, actually, we haven't mentioned the other vital part, because without this, the viola is nothing.
Sure.
The bow. We have a Pernambuco stick, curved inwards, and strung with horsehair. This part on the end, very beautiful part. It's called the frog. A student asked me why it's called the frog the other day, and I wasn't quite sure. But it's to do with they think it's to do with the French name for vice, the vice on a workbench, which was what would hold this piece of wood while you worked on it, and it took that name. Anyway, we tighten with this screw at the end. We tighten the frog, bringing it closer to the end, and thereby giving tension to the stick and tightening the hair. Too little tension, the hair will just bash against the stick, and you won't get enough volume. Too much tension, and the sound will become tight like this. So,
Joseph, do you have different bows as well, or?
Yes, I have three different bows.
Okay.
Some people have many bows, especially top flight soloists. It's a little bit like a violinist recently described it as like a golfer having many golf clubs.
Okay.
So I've got three bows, and I use them all for different kinds of music and different kinds of sounds. The bow pulls across the strings, makes the string vibrate. The vibrations go down through this bit of wood called the bridge, and from there are disseminated around the main box of the instrument, which is the amplification.
The wood, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So specifically your viola, how old is it, and when did you buy it, and is there a story to it?
There's a bit of a story that my quartet, as we've said, is called Sacconi Quartet, because when we formed, we needed a name, as you do. And our first violinist, Ben Hancock's, who's on one of these similar videos,
exactly.
He at the time had a Sacconi violin on loan from Charles Beer, who's a great world expert on violins, history of violins. So Ben had a Sacconi violin on loan. We called the quartet Sacconi. Ben's violin then eventually went back to Charles Beer. And then in 2005, I think, this viola literally found its way to me because its owner, a great friend of mine now, Ellen Solomon, she heard us playing and saw we were called Sacconi Quartet and asked why, and we explained. And she revealed to me that she had this viola at home, which had been her father's, and he'd bought it from, he was a viola player, he'd bought it from Sacconi in the 50s. So after we got to know each other a bit, she allowed me to borrow it, and that's actually, it's been 10 years now. So
you've been borrowing it since 10 years, basically.
Exactly, it's been a very wonderful 10 years. I'm very, very lucky to have this and the three bows.
Yeah. Wow. That's a beautiful story, really.
Oh, thank you.
Nice.
Sacconi was one of the greatest makers of the 20th century, although he got distracted more and more as his years went by from making by restoration. He was really one of the finest restorers and one of the pioneers, actually, of restoration and of doing making repairs so that once the repair was finished, it would be invisible. You wouldn't notice a repair at all. So he lived from 1895 to 1976, I think, and this was made in 1934. So it's 80 years old or so.
Wow.
Well, again,
how do you find your way around it?
Well, again, first, just to emphasise, if one imagines that this is the main thing going on, but this is the main thing, the bow, and that's why the bow is held in the right hand. Most of us are right-handed, and that's how the bow has ended up to be in the right hand. The bow, if you think about what is actually producing the sound, the bow is the connection between the player's head and heart and the string. And this point of contact right here where the bow touches the string, I always encourage my students, is the real sacred point. That's what you've got to think about, because that's everything, you see. Once we're doing this, the string is vibrating and we're making the string shorter or longer by adjusting the fingers. That's how we reach the different pitches. Having no frets means there's much greater flexibility, both in terms of the pitches you can create. So we can go anywhere, we can tune notes slightly up, slightly down, melodically or harmonically, or you can even do, with more contemporary compositions, you can make quarter tones and all sorts. You can also do slides. So you've got
More
great flexibility
as well,
there.
maybe.
Exactly,
Yeah,
you can make lots of effects. But also, as well as flexibility in the notes you can produce, you've got great facility because you can move around quickly, smoothly.
Yeah.
There's nothing to stop you.
So, and to get it in pitch
Yes.
perfectly, I'm guessing that's just a matter of practice and
Really,
years
it's a matter
of
of practice.
experience.
Yeah, I mean, when we learn, we talk about positions. So first position is where you've got, so I've got, let's take the C string, and if I put my first finger tone on the D, one tone above the open string, then that's first position. And
Okay.
then the next tone up is second position, third, fourth, and
Yeah,
so on.
yeah.
But after a while, you start to stop thinking in those positions and you just think about notes being different. And obviously there's different places you can make notes. For example, we can make a G here, or here, or here. So
Yeah. So I'm guessing it depends on the piece where you choose what position you're playing in.
it depends
the passage
on the sound that you're wanting to produce. For example, later on in this John Island piece, actually I just prepared this to show you, there's a really gorgeous moment. So we could play it here, and how well it'll work down here. And that would be playing in first position, and the sound I'd describe as quite real, quite present, maybe quite bright.
Yeah.
Lionel Curtis, in his arrangement, he marks it to be played up here. Which gives it a much more veiled quality. So
Wow. So it's depending on the arranger or the composer as well, how he writes it. Exactly. You kind of have to follow what is written, and it's kind of dictates the sound a little bit to a certain extent.
sometimes, the composer or arranger will show that. Other times, or most other times, it's up to us as performers to choose where it's gonna. We think it's going to create the sound that we feel is most appropriate.
Yeah. So, and if we're talking about writing for a viola, like where does it kind of sit within the orchestra? I mean, you have the violin, which is like shiny, nice, bright, and you've got the cello, like woody, dark.
Yeah. There's actually loads of sounds that the viola can make. Obviously, what can I play to show you? I mean, it can have the brightness of the violin. Even in a low register, actually, the start of Dvorak's American Quartet. You can have this sort of boldness, bright sound, even in the low register. And the low register, actually, on the C string is fantastic. On the viola. This is, I've just played a duet by Frank Bridge for two violas called Lament, which is absolutely terrific. The second viola, which I played, starts off on his own, like this. So this wonderful richness of the
Beautiful,
C string.
Yeah. But still, when would you recommend to write for a viola and not for a low register in the violin or a
Sure.
high register in the cello.
Yeah. The classic time to write for violas is when you want something a little bit melancholic, maybe as something a little bit more personal, intimate, a little bit sad, and then that middle register of the viola really comes to into its own, especially. This middle register of the G string here. That's
Okay, so that'd be the middle G, right?
Yeah.
Around. So if you would recommend a register to write, would be around the middle G.
around middle C. Actually,
richest
here is,
sound.
Yeah, here is middle C. This is all grouped around middle C, and I particularly like this register.
Okay, you would say that's the strong register of the viola.
It's a strong register. It has to be used well. You don't want too much cover from other instruments because it will get covered there.
Okay.
The viola, like the violin, can shine on the top string and use the C string to give a lot of sound. The middle two strings, you want to just be careful of the scoring.
Okay, interesting. Let's talk a little bit about standard bowing techniques and writing techniques for the viola. If you could take us through that, please.
You've got separate bows, and you've got all manner of slurs, and you can break it up, and this sort of thing. That's the two standard ways. We have something called spiccato, which is short.
What's staccato then?
So I was just going to say the best way to indicate that, if you want that, is maybe just to write spic short for spiccato, because if you write staccato notes repeatedly on a music, musicians will start to play very sort of uber short.
Okay.
Which one probably doesn't want.
Yeah.
You've got tremolo, which we can do very light and airy here, or we can do hard and fast at the heel.
Yeah, yeah.
We also alter the point of, we call it the point of contact, so we might play over the fingerboard for this very gentle sound that's sometimes written flautando.
Yeah, yeah.
You can also just write tasto, which is Italian for fingerboard. And if we come the other way, you get a very quite a special effect to be used sparingly, but in the right...
or in film, maybe?
Definitely in film and television, absolutely. And that's called sul ponticello, where we just go right to the bridge where this whistling.
Okay, and you would just write in the score sul pont,
just write
or flaut, or sul tasto.
Exactly.
For the other way.
Yeah.
Okay.
We haven't done pizzicato, which you obviously know about with the fingers. There's a special Bartok pizz, again, good effect for film and television writing, where you pick the string up and slap it against the fingerboard. You get that. Bartok didn't invent it, but he was, he made it. He used it a lot and
he made it his
more
thing.
popular.
He put his signature under it. Yeah.
And it's written with a circle with a vertical line coming down from it. I think above the note.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have when you hit the string with the bow.
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that.
Players don't really like doing it. No?
Col legno.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like some col legno?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm just going to get my spare bow. Not spare bow. My contemporary bow, because that bow is
too expensive to.
That bow is 70 years old, and my other one is
want
150 years old. So I don't col legno with them. So this one's about 3 years old, and it's lovely. But we can col legno with this. You see some players in sessions switching to a pencil for col legno. But it's not as good because you haven't got the weight of the bow. Okay, so we just draw the stick towards us, and then the famous one is Mars from the planets. Sorry. This.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can use that, for all kinds of effects.
All kinds of effects.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And how would you write that in a score?
With the words col
Just
legno.
col legno.
Yeah.
Okay.
With the wood.
Okay.
And then you have to remember to write norm or normale.
If you want to cancel
When you're
it
going to
back
exactly
normal.
cancel it, revert to normal. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other kind of extended techniques we've missed on the viola? Sorry.
I mean, if you want random, very high pitches, and actually this isn't written very much, but you can use the strings behind the bridge. Again, sparingly. It's just for a really amazing effect.
What are the most common errors composers make while writing for viola?
For me, I think the most common error is to not allow enough time to go from arco to pizzicato, or I mean, essentially that is allow enough time to turn the page. But certainly, if you're, that's about as quick as you can get to pizzicato. But you sometimes.
Okay, so you need a bit of time to change the position.
And similarly to come out of the pizzicato.
Yeah.
You see, it's quite difficult. Although there are. Yeah.
Okay.
So just allowing a
That's
beat
kind
or
of
half
a general string thing.
I suppose that's a general string
I'm
thing. I think all of those would be
range-wise. Do you come across a lot of composers who write too high or too low?
No, it's actually quite unusual to see high writing. I'm just doing a piece by Jonathan Dove at the moment, his piano quintets, which has all this. Which is really difficult. I have to practice it. But I mean, you need to know who you're writing for, really, whether the players have got time to take it away and practice it, or whether it's something they're going to need to deliver right away. But in general, you've got to be careful of jumps on string instruments. Obviously, but there's. I don't like being restricted with suggesting what composers write. I don't go back and argue with Beethoven.
Sure, but there is obviously, like we talked about, the best sounding range and what sounds good on a viola. What's the highest kind of note you can actually get to on the viola?
Well, the highest note would be That
sounds reasonably good.
That's a G. I don't know how many.
G5? G6?
That's the G below. There's the G. That's the G above middle C.
Okay.
And then.
Okay.
But normally you would probably. You might go to there, which is middle C. Next one up. That one.
Okay. And then the lowest string is.
Lowest string is the C below middle C.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Brilliant. Then some more technical stuff. If you do double stops? We haven't talked about double stops.
Yeah, actually, I mean, that's something to be very careful with if you're composing, because you need to know what will work in the fingers. Sometimes something I see not infrequently is either double stopped 2/5 stacked, either as a double triple stop, which you can't really do because you can't really bar on the viola or the other string like you can on the guitar.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So obviously we can do 1/5 and then the next, but you can't really.
So triple stops on a viola are not really possible.
No, triple stops are fine, but not 2/5 stacked, because the only way to do them is with the same finger.
Yeah, I see.
And similarly, if you're doing some kind of barrier large figure, if you're it doesn't really work. Anything that's going to need to be double stopped in the fingers, whether it's played as a chord or broken. So just be careful about only having 1/5 at a time.
Okay.
And obviously, there's a few difficult to go into exact ones now, but there's some. Once you're into triple stopping, there's some things that will work and won't work. Mm-hmm. Another thing is that we haven't touched on at all is harmonics.
Oh, of course.
Do you want a quick bit on harmonics?
Yes, let's do some harmonics.
Harmonics are amazing. You've got two types of harmonic on the viola and the other string instruments. You've got natural ones, and that's where we're using the open string and we're touching it very lightly with one finger. Here's to cut it. So on the G string, to cut the string in half. And this harmonic is halfway up the string. And what's happening is that both halves of the string are vibrating independently, and they're producing a note 1 octave higher. Okay, the next one is back here, and that's a third of the way up the string. And then we get, that's a quarter. And so you go on, and you get them going that way and going this way as well, obviously, because you can cut the string into a third and two-third here or there. The best way of writing those natural harmonics is to write the pitch that you want and just write a circle over it, just like you'd write an open string.
Okay.
Okay, so if I'm wanting this note, that's a G above middle C. If I'm wanting it as a harmonic, I would just write the G and write a circle over the top. There's no confusion there because there's no way you can produce that with an open string, so no confusion. The other set of harmonics is what are called artificial harmonics, and in general we stop with the first finger. Say I play an A, then I use my fourth finger to make the harmonic, so to lightly stop a fourth higher, and I get 2 octaves above the first finger, like this. And again, you can either write that at pitch with a circle over the top, or you can indicate exactly how you want it produced by writing the note that's stopped as a normal note and the half stop note as a diamond.
And I'm guessing that's more for like slow passages, no? Is it a little harder to get it in tune, or is there
yeah,
fast
you might
passages
need a
write?
bit of more time to get there. Yeah, you might finish a piece with this kind of dreamy sound to go into the ether. At the moment, again, in the Jonathan Dove piece, we're just playing really near the beginning. I have to play this. Sometimes difficult for it to speak. The violins are using natural harmonics at that time, so it's easier. But yeah, you can make you can have a lot of fun with harmonics.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Sound
you need to be
as well.
Yeah, you need to be quite clear with how that you write them. Otherwise, the players get confused.
Okay, cool. Do you have any kind of last tips or tricks in terms of writing for a viola?
Just have fun, and I think although we've talked about what to do and what not to do, we're all musicians and artists, and we should be pushed. And I think as composers, we want you to create the most amazing sounds and new sounds, and sounds that stimulate the imagination.
So in terms of writing for the viola, there's something a little different. You've got your own clef.
Exactly. We use the alto clef, the middle line on the It's not that funny.
I know. I'm so sorry.
I was really trying that time.
Yeah,
as well.
I was as well, but the more you try. Oh God, it's because also, it's the last question. It's like, whew.